Hello, friends. The Ramayana fever is on. Everyone is talking about Ram and everyone is talking about the Ramayana. The Ram Mandir has brought a surge into our country where everyone really wants to understand who Ram is. What is the significance of Ramayana? Today, we are going to explore some very interesting features that will help us understand Lord Ram better. The beginning of the Ramayana is a question. In fact, almost every epic in the Vedic culture begins with a question. The question is where Valmiki is asking Narada, his guru, who is a hero who has a list of qualities. He lists about 24 qualities. And he wants to know, is there anyone who has all these qualities in completeness? Narada, at that point, pauses and thinks and answers that yes, there is one person who is a complete amalgam of all these 24 qualities in completeness, and that is Ram. And then Narada goes on to explain the entire Ramayana in about 100 verses. This is known as Sanchint Ramayana, where in just 100 verses, Narada explains the entire Ramayana. In fact, there are people that believe that if you just chant these 100 verses, it is as good as chanting the 24,000 verses of the Ramayana. In fact, this particular section of the Ramayana is a seed which can be expanded as much as you want. The Ramayana, as we know today, is in 24,000 verses, which is divided into 660 chapters and into 6 kandas or sections. Valmiki wrote the entire Ramayana in one single meter, and that is called Anushtup Chandaha. It's amazing that a poet who is so accomplished and so powerful that he's able to write 24,000 verses in pure Sanskrit in the same single meter. And that's why Valmiki is called as Adi Kavi. He's considered to be the most powerful poet that existed. If anyone really explores the Ramayana in its completeness with logic and understanding, there is a lot that you can learn. In fact, I like to call the Ramayana as the best self-help book. If there is anyone who wants to know anything about any aspect of life, which includes psychology, which includes human behavior, which includes understanding deeper value systems, understanding character, understanding relationships, understanding leadership, understanding how to deal with success and failures, how to evolve as a total human being, Ramayana is the book. And the way I have been narrating the Ramayana and the way I have been writing the Ramayana is simply to help people come closer to the original narrative, but at the same time make it very relevant to a common man. Right now, we are in Banganga. This particular place is historic in its significance because this is the place where Lord Ram visited during his 14 years of travel. This particular place is in Mumbai and it is known as Valkeshwar. The reason it is called Valkeshwar is for a very significant and a very powerful understanding. So, Ban Ganga gets its name from the arrow of Lord Ram. Ban means arrow, and Ganga is the water that comes out when Lord Ram shot an arrow on the ground. So, at the banks of Ban Ganga is a temple which is known as Valkeshwar Mahadev, and it's a temple of Lord Shiva. It's a beautiful Shiva Linga, which is considered to be one of the Jyotirlings, one of the very, very powerful Shivalings. And Lord Ram wanted to worship Lord Shiva here, and he didn't have a source of water. And that's when he shot an arrow into the ground here, and right in the middle of this pond, he shot the arrow, and from the ground comes out Mother Ganga. And therefore, this place is known as Ban Ganga. Now imagine, this is in the middle of Mumbai. Ganga is very, very far away from here. But the Supreme Lord, when he invokes the way the cosmic energy works, the way the universe works, is there are many rules, there are many things that can be bent according to the will of the Supreme Lord. And here is one such thing. Normally, a place like this, which is very close to the ocean, you do not expect fresh water to come from the ground. Obviously, it's literally a stone throw away from the ocean. And when you hit into the ground, there is no possibility of fresh water coming out because it's salty all around you. But this is a tank that is very, very special, fresh water all through, and it's amazing, sparkling fresh water. So when Lord Ram worshipped Valkeshwar Mahadev here, this place became a historical significance and it became a tirtha. Holy places are formed for a very significant and a very important reason. Every holy place that you actually come across anywhere in the world, it celebrates a particular sacrifice. There is no holy place that doesn't have a sacrifice associated with it. Whether you consider Ayodhya, Ram Janmabhoomi, where such a massive temple is being formed, or Banganga right here, both have the same theme, the theme of sacrifice. Why do people worship anyone? The reason why a person is worshipped is simply because there is an element of deep sacrifice involved in it. Lord Ram sacrificed so much for the sake of the citizens of Ayodhya and for the sake of the world. He did so much on a personal level as sacrifices, which is what is celebrated today in the form of worship. Any human being who understands this element of sacrifice also becomes worthy of worship. The Supreme Lord, when He descends as a human being, He is setting an example for the world to follow, for the world to understand what it means to be an ideal human being. And because He's setting an example, His entire life is a large example which is recorded in the form of Ramayana. My urge to all of you is, while the festivity is on, while the celebration is on, while everyone is so joyful about the Ram Mandir being formed and being inaugurated, I would highly urge you all to go deeper into the Ramayana. Because unless and until you understand the history and the sacrifices involved, you will not be able to celebrate in the right mode. External celebrations always have to originate from an internal contemplation. If you have not contemplated on the sacrifice involved, the celebration will just be an external show. It will just be an external pomp. But when there is a contemplation on the sacrifice involved, the celebration will not just be an external pomp, but it will be an expression of gratitude. So today, as we are so joyfully celebrating the inauguration of the Ram temple, let us also take a vow that we will go deeper into studying the Ramayana, understanding the personality of Lord Ram, understanding the character of Lord Ram, and understanding the mood of the Ramayana. Valmiki has a blessing of Lord Brahma that as long as there are oceans, as long as mountains exist, as long as rivers are flowing, and as long as the sun rises, till then the Valmiki Ramayana will be celebrated. And every time the Ramayana is narrated, spoken about, written, or even heard, the name of Valmiki will always be associated with it. So let us all, at this point in time, contemplate on the sacrifice of Valmiki himself for writing such a historic and monumental literature. When Valmiki wrote the Ramayana, it was a time when there were no publishing houses. There was a time when there was no printing presses. Imagine the effort that it took to write 24,000 verses on a palm leaf. And after writing those 24,000 verses on a palm leaf, how do you transmit it? How do you make it available to public? He himself taught Lavakush, who were his first disciples, the sons of Sita and Ram, to narrate the entire Ramayana in its totality in a beautiful poetic form. And Lavakush were the first technically printing presses where they were actually going out and narrating the Ramayana in a song across the country. And Lavakush, the narration was so captivating and so powerful that people wanted to learn it. And that is how the Ramayana got transmitted from thousands of years. Now, so many people have so many questions about the authenticity of the Ramayana. How do you know it is the original? How do you know it is the real one? Simple. First is a meter. The entire Ramayana is locked in a particular meter called Anushtup Chandaha. And if the entire Ramayana is locked in this particular meter, then there is no question of anybody meddling with the meter. If one word is meddled, the entire meter gets spoiled. And there is no Kavi, there is no poet like Valmiki to fit in some other words to make it exactly sound the same meter. So Valmiki's first and the most powerful proof that he has, that everything that we have right now is authentic is the meter. The second proof is the way in which the narration has been transmitted in what is known as a Guru Sishya Parampara. That means the knowledge is conserved in a disciplic succession. When we get the knowledge from a succession, from a disciplic succession, we can assume that the knowledge is bona fide because thousands of acharyas in a parampara have put an effort to preserve that knowledge. I'll give you a simple example. When Lord Ram was leaving Ayodhya, at that point in time, Kaushalya was very disturbed, and Kaushalya tells Lord Ram, she says, I have been waiting for this opportunity so that you become the king. And she says, while saying that, she says, I've been waiting for the last 24 years for this particular day. So, for instead of while saying this 24 years, she uses a particular word. She says, Dasha Saptacha Varshani. Dasha means 10, Sapta means 7, and Cha Varshani, Varsha means number of years. So many people who do not have access to the parampara, when they come across this verse, they assume that the age of Ram at that point in time is 17, Dasha Sapta, which means 10 and 7, 17. But the Acharyas actually explain the age of Ram was 24. So how do you understand this? That's why the interpretation of the Acharyas is very important. The word cha, whenever it comes after a number, that particular number has to be added again. So Dasha Sapta Cha, which means that 7 number has to be added again. So which means 10 plus 7 is 17, 17 plus 7 is 24. And that is why we understand that the age of Ram when he left from Ayodhya was 24. Now, if that word Cha was not there, everything would have changed, isn't it? So much of confusion and chaos would have been there. And if the interpretation of the word cha is not given to us by a bona fide teacher, how would we even understand what to be added? That is why the parampara, the disciplic succession, locks the knowledge. And that's why it is important to have knowledge through a disciplic succession and not through the internet. And therefore, I highly recommend all of you to go in and dive deep into the Ramayana, guided through parampara, guided through good teachers who have done research, who have actually lived by that knowledge, who have heard it from teachers who have lived by that knowledge. And only in a living parampara, only in a living historic succession will you get access to true knowledge. The Ramayana, the game of life, is my effort to preserve the knowledge in the most authentic way, bring it to you in a language that is very easily accessible to a common man, in a language that is applicable in a common man's life, and in at the same time ensuring that the authenticity of the literature is kept as it is. On this most auspicious occasion of the inauguration of the Ram Janmabhoomi and the beautiful temple that is being built, I humbly submit this series, the Ramayana, the Game of Life, as an offering to the world, as an offering at the lotus feet of Lord Ram, as an offering at the lotus feet of Valmiki Muni, who is the one who has given this literature to the world, and at the lotus feet of all the teachers and the gurus that have strived so hard to preserve the authenticity of this literature and the depth of this literature as it is. I would be really happy if all of you can use this time to dive deep into the Ramayana and understand the Ramayana. Explore this series called Ramayana, the Game of Life, which is available all over on Amazon and all the bookstores. And study for yourself, understand for yourself the deeper principles behind Ramraj. Don't just make an external pomp, but let it be a contemplative celebration. And that's when Ram will really come into our lives. Thank you very much, and Jai Shri Ram.